During the period of World War II, a man by the name of Adolf Hitler, through his governmental Nazi regime, ordered the killings of over 6 million Jewish people worldwide, and some odd other 7 to 9 other million people on top of that, through what we know as the Holocaust. Although the evils of government today are not as widely in place, or maybe not as abused, it just notes the importance of civic education and being a proper citizen and knowing the power that we do have through government. We as people give government the ability to govern us with a social contract. Social contract that government, in return, giving them the power to govern, they will keep us safe, and that they will not abuse their powers. So many people think the importance of civic education, or being a citizen and understanding those powers and governmental, issues, will be on the front burner of things in the modern day. Unfortunately, that is not true. In the modern day, through a survey conducted that is noted in an article by Mrs. Margaret Branson on the importance of civic education, states that survey done from citizens from the age of 15 to 25, citizens that should be some of our most vocal, the ones that are coming to issues they've never seen before, are turning away the civic education and empowerment, the idea of government or politics. Now, 49% of these people surveyed, almost half of many thousands, concluded that volunteering is more important than civic education, or any of the things on that matter. Although volunteering is 100% true, civic education definitely needs to be higher on that list. It's pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to be a full-run politician, but with civic education, that's where the real power stands. Volunteering is great, but if we could also come together with the volunteer and not put civic education on a back burner, we won't run into some of the issues that present themselves later, and that may even be occurring today in society. From the same article, The Importance of Civic Education, Thomas Rousseau quotes, "We have physicists, geometers, chemists, poets, musicians, painters, and business owners, but we no longer have citizens." We have these great minds, and these great minds fade away from some of the most important things, the idea to be governed and to be a citizen of the world and society. Without the proper knowledge that we would attain with civic education and knowing government's boundaries, we turn a blind eye, as we've seen in certain situations, civil rights, among other things, slavery, wars. We are under a topic of abusal from government. Government puts opposing plans on us, issues that we don't know we have the power to fight. Our God-given freedoms, or maybe not even God-given, but just equal freedoms through liberty, through law, as our founding fathers say. Some of the modern issues that we face in today's time, whether it be right to bear arms, freedom of speech, or even censorship on internet, and other technological standards, are major questions. So, for instance, as people, if government oversteps its boundaries and decides to take away our right to bear arms, to protect ourselves, if we don't know the proper power, how are we going to defend ourselves from that? We give them all their weaponry, we give them all our freedoms of speeches. If we're not properly educated in that manner, they will abuse that. We'll have no right to defend ourselves from oppressing governments, such as Stalin in Russia in the early 20th century, or the Nazi regime under fascist Hitler. Censorship is a big issue that we're seeing today with the SOPA bill and among other things. Although they raise issues that state piracy, among other things, and detrimental, things that may happen on the internet, there's nothing more detrimental than taking away our ability of freedom of speech and free will. From an article also titled The Importance of Civic Education from John Gowdy, he takes a quote from Thomas Jefferson. "The diffusion of knowledge of an enlightened citizenship are essential elements to maintain liberty." Stating there that if we are enlightened and knowledgeable, we in fact will have consistent government. We have things that we as citizens and socially will be acceptable, and we'll be able to put progress to these issues. There will be no abusal, there will be no detrimental evils to society. Ultimately, what he's saying is knowledge is power. With education, as it easily seems, we are able to educate ourselves and keep government working for us and not us working for government. How often is it nowadays that we see politicians who apparently only make $7,000 a year, $100,000 a year, rack in millions and millions afterwards once they're done with their civil duties? Something to think about. We're not properly educated. They get away with things that we don't know of. It's just, we turn a blind eye and never do anything. It's just very common sense. As Thomas Paine says, a great radical from the Revolutionary period says, society in any state is great. The government, even in its greatest state, is nothing but a necessary evil. Government in its worst state is not tolerable in any fashion. So as we focus on the importance of civic education and what it means to be civilized and understanding, we come to the conclusion that a detrimental lack of understanding in civic education, or proper effort, or just simply knowing the boundaries of government, is something detrimental to us as people for generations to come. From that standpoint, it should be seamlessly, easily to understand that civic education is something that we must, follow through with a little bit more than we do nowadays. Instead of putting it on the back burner and not voting at all or doing anything, and although it may seem like one vote doesn't count or your voice doesn't count, the power holds in the people. The government has no power unless us as people come together and give them that power through the social contract there. The power that we enlist on them is something that we need to keep, that we generate to them, not something they take from us. With that proper civic education, we will consistently have better politics and government and be able to keep moving on. As in the past parts of the world, governments have fallen and failed, and it's bound to happen. Yet that being said, if we keep properly civilized and educated with the knowledge of free will that our founding fathers tried to instill in us, then we can avoid revolutions where millions die and continue to live in what most people consider the greatest country in the world. We are all governed, and it should all be our duty to take a little bit out of our time to simply be citizens, to use those powers. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.